Welcome back to the Auto Obsessive Garage. Chadwick with you again for another installment of the Auto Experience series. Today's specimen is a 1991 Dodge Stealth RT Twin Turbo. Now this is the near identical mechanical twin to the Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4. So for the rest of this video, I'll probably just say Stealth, but most of these statements also apply to that vehicle. Another thing to clear is this is not a DSM. This is what is called a captive import. The Dodge Stealth RT Twin Turbo was built in Japan in the same factory as the 3000 GT VR4. So not a DSM, guys. Okay, that administrative stuff aside, what is the Dodge Stealth RT Twin Turbo? Well, it's grouped in with the early 90s Japanese sports cars that are very popular today. It's a competitor to the NSX, the Toyota Supra, the Mazda RX-7, the Nissan 300ZX Twin Turbo, and there's a few more in there, I'm sure. These are all very, very performance-oriented Japanese cars from that period and are still very popular today. The Stealth RT Twin Turbo has a 3-liter V6 engine with twin turbochargers supplying some extra power. What really distinguishes the Stealth RT from its other early 90s Japanese sports car competitors is that it's really a technology buffet presented by Mitsubishi. This car had a lot of features that were really revolutionary upon its release. You know, the all-wheel drive system, the engine itself, twin turbos, 4-wheel steering, excellent brakes. It just had a lot of really good tech behind it. Now, the cost of that tech is a little hefty of a curb weight. It was a little heavier than its contemporaries, but it overcomes that with brute power and technology that allows it to move. The Stealth RT Turbo was a fast car and a quick car during its time, and it still is today. Just because it was a fast car back then doesn't necessarily disqualify it from being a fast car now. Twin turbo 6 cylinders are a popular thing, and they definitely started that trend a long time ago. This model that we're driving here today, well, it's an experienced model. It has nearly 158,000 miles under its belt, and that's a good mileage range. I really like that range. Really low ones mean they sat too long, and any higher than that meant it was pretty much a daily, and that's not the case with this vehicle. Now, it came to me with a list of issues. If you want to watch how I built this car up from how I got it to the state it's in today, check out my channel. I do have a build series on this particular Stealth. What is the market like right now for Dodge Stealth RT Twin Turbos and its brother, the 3000 GT? If you could go back 10 years ago, you could pick one of these up for a steal. That's basically the bottom of the depreciation curve. Nowadays, they're starting to creep up. Over the past 5 years, they've really been increasing in value, especially clean ones. My guess would be when it bottomed out, a lot of folks bought these cars really cheap and modified them in not the most intelligent way. Either ruined them that way, crashed them driving like idiots or whatnot. That naturally reduced the inventory available and drove up the price. That's how scarcity works. Finding a clean one of these today, unmodified and in good running order and looking decent, yeah, I'd say it's classified as a pretty rare vehicle nowadays. What does that equate to price point? Well, you can still land a decent one of these for around 7 grand, 8 grand, 9 grand. And that's going to be a good running model, one you can actually take out and enjoy and not be ashamed to be seen in. And every once in a while, you can find the $5,000 one, but it's going to need some work. And that work, a lot of times you hear a lot of stories about the maintenance on these things. Now, I don't believe that's 100% true. I think anyone that's ever owned a performance car from the early 90s, no matter who made it, yeah. If you think cars can run for 30 years and get a good amount of mileage on them and not need maintenance, you must be a Toyota or Honda guy. No, but seriously, I don't find the maintenance to be too crazy. I don't think this is a very fragile car. I think it's built to perform, and it does perform well. Now, maintenance is huge on these performance-oriented cars. Just make sure you're doing all your maintenance. Time about water pump. If you have an issue, take care of it, you know? And there's wear items. You're going to have to replace regular wear items. Nothing different there. But as far as the 3000 GT VR4 and the Dodge Stealth being exceptionally hard to maintain, nah, I'm not buying it. Back to the market. Yes, it would be probably a good time to get into one of these if you've been looking at them for a while. It's always been a bucket list of mine, and I'm glad I found the one I did. I actually lucked out. one that I could restore to decent quality, because these things are getting scarce. They are getting hard to find at a decent price point, and they are starting to go up. So if you're looking for clean ones, you're going to spend a little bit more cash. Are they a good investment? It's hard to say. Early 90s stuff is really hot right now, and I want to say, yeah, you're going to get your money back. You're not going to lose money on one of these, but it's probably not a hot investment grade item. It's not going to do an air-cooled Porsche move, that's for sure. But hey, it's a lot of performance, and it's a very cool car, so I'd advise you to get one if you're looking. Let's see if this old Dodge Stealth still has some moves in it. I think it does. On to the objective tests. We've got the Stealth RT Twin Turbo up on the scales. Let's see how much the curb weight is and what that front and rear balance also looks like. Weighing in at just over 3,700 pounds, the Stealth RT Turbo is kind of hefty for an early 90s sports car, but really isn't that much larger than most modern sports cars today. With 60% of the weight over the front, the Stealth RT Turbo really exhibits the weight imbalance common in most front-engine vehicles. The canyons are a great proving ground to shake down the Stealth RT Turbo's tech. Unable to totally escape the laws of physics, the Stealth's mass forces the car to push slightly into hard corners. Some throttle input can correct this in some applications. Steering feels great, up until the point when the four-wheel steering system jumps in unannounced. If unprepared, the system can catch you off guard with a feeling that the rear is walking away from you. These small complaints aside, the Stealth is a very capable canyon carver. The all-wheel drive system claws out of the corners, and the mass actually adds a sense of stability in high-speed cornering. Early post-apex throttle allows the car to sprint out of corners while keeping the revs above 3,000, allows for both turbos to apply a very generous amount of boost to cover straights between the corners. Body roll is near non-existent, delivering a high level of driver confidence. The Stealth RT Turbo is a blast through the corners. The Stealth's exterior remains clean, yet interesting at the same time, especially in this Firestorm red. There's no mistaking it for anything but a sports car. I believe this design has also aged very well. Lines are broad and sweeping, and the car has a very smooth aero design to it. Flying buttresses, a spoiler tucked just under the rear windshield, and pop-up headlights keep this concept car image strong. The car's design could only come from the 90s. And that's awesome. I also give the Stealth's interior high marks. The cockpit configuration of all the instruments facing towards the driver is well executed. The seats are also quite comfortable, yet provide solid, body-hugging bolstering. Back seats are nothing more than an afterthought here. Gauges are clear, and additional instrumentation provided by the center dash gauges adds to the cockpit aesthetic. HVAC controls from the future are a major attraction here, with really rad animations portraying airflow and temperature. trunk space in the Stealth is also sufficient, although somewhat shallow due to the all-wheel drive equipment. The 6G72 TT, I'm sure those T's stand for something important, is a 3-liter dual overhead cam twin turbo plant that puts out 300 horsepower and just over 300 pound-feet of torque. Boost is on tap for engine speeds north of 3,000, and a 7,000 redline gives you plenty of time to enjoy it before having to grab your next gear. A pair of Mitsubishi TD04 9B turbos supply a healthy amount of boost, 9 psi until 1994 when they were up to 12 psi. Though small, these turbos spool quickly and keep supplying boost through the rev range. Each also has its own dedicated small intercooler. The 1991 Stealth Turbo makes do with a modest Getrag 5-speed manual that isn't the sharpest feeling shifter in the business, but it does get the job done. The tech of the car really helps it out here by throwing all-wheel drive, 4-wheel steering, and a limited slip differential into the equation. These are the factors that make the Stealth RT twin turbo a real competitor, as the car can easily put all of its power down with high efficiency. Showcasing the tech on the Stealth and 3000 GT platform is what Mitsubishi used to make the car relevant in the early 90s. Additional gadgetry, such as active exhaust, electronically controlled suspension, and active aero on the 3000 GT only, also added some tech flavor to the vehicle. It's really the drivetrain tech that shines and still allows the Stealth RT Turbo to be a performer today. Mitsubishi's hardy all-wheel drive system, revolutionary 4-wheel steering, and limited slip diff still function brilliantly to achieve one objective: putting all the power down. Speaking of power, 300 horsepower is still a respectable amount today. Twin turbo 6 cylinders are also quite in style. And although often criticized for its heft, the 3,700 plus pound curb weight really isn't that much more pudgy than modern sports cars. Not to mention that from a value standpoint, the Stealth/3000 GT is much more approachable than its early 90s counterparts, the NSX and Supra. The Stealth RT Turbo is still fast, has an eye-catching concept car design, and is a blast to pilot through the twisties. The once cutting-edge tech makes the Stealth a highly viable performance car even today.